Hello, my name is Denise Scaloni. 3 years ago, I started my own home-based business. I was so fortunate to have so many wonderful women help me along the way. This was the inspiration for this show, Empowering Women. Today, my guests are Kathleen Kuznicki, an attorney with the Law Lynch Group, Dr. Hollis Batista of AB Consulting, and Kim Adley, Characters by Kim and Passport to Pittsburgh. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Today I'm here with Kathleen Kuznicki, an attorney for the Lynch Law Group. Hi, Kathleen.
Hi.
Thank you for being here today.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
As an attorney, what type of law do you practice?
I practice intellectual property law. So that is, I help small business owners or small, medium-sized business owners with their copyrights, their trademarks, patents, and sometimes trade secrets.
Okay. Ooh, that sounds interesting. What exactly is intellectual property?
So for businesses, it's their intangible assets. So for your branding, your logos, and your marketing, your trademark protection is your intellectual property. If you are generating content for your business, such as you do trainings or materials, that's copyrighted material, or photographer, that's also copyrighted material. If you're a company that's producing a product and you've invented either improvements in products or new products, your patents are your intellectual property.
Okay, so as a business owner, we should be aware of this.
Yes, you're probably generating lots of intellectual property and don't even realize it.
Okay. I sat at one of your workshops a while ago,
Yes.
and I was shocked to find out how many people violate copyright laws and don't
Yes.
even realize it.
Yes.
Can you tell someone how that happens?
Yeah, so social media is just a wild, wild west for copyright infringement. A lot of times when you share any meme on Facebook, most likely it is copyright infringement, but no one's going to care because no one's making money on it. But as a business owner, if you're sharing somebody else's photographs or content and you are generating income or advertising for yourself, that could easily be copyright infringement. What people don't realize, a lot of those Google images you see for free, people think, oh, if it's on the internet, it's free, I can take it at any time. No. Most likely somebody owns that image, and most likely it's not in the public domain. And if it's owned by a stock photo company, you're going to be getting a very nasty letter at some point, because they have algorithms, very sophisticated algorithms out there trolling, looking for those images, and you're going to be getting a letter that's going to ask you for a lot more money than you would have ever wanted to pay for an image.
Oh, that's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. If I have something copyrighted and someone violates that, do I have some recourse?
Yes, you do. Well, first of all, as soon as you create something, anything you create, it's copyright protected.
Okay.
But to really go after somebody, especially in the legal sense, you need to have it registered. So that means you upload, you fill out a copyright registration with the U.S. Copyright Office, and you upload your, what they call a deposit, which is the document or the artistic expression that you want to have protected. Because it gives you a bit, and I won't bore you with the details, but it gives you a big old legal stick to go after somebody. Most likely you're just going to want them to take it down, right? If someone's using your material, it's
Yes.
probably not intentional, but you just want them to take it down. If you really want to go after somebody because you feel that they've made money on your idea or they're generating an income, then to take them to court, you need to have your copyright registered.
Is that expensive?
Copyright registration for a single author, single work is $55.
Oh my gosh, it's hardly anything.
So it's hardly anything. Now, if you're generating a lot of material, I realize it does add up. So
Right.
what I tell people is only really register then the things that you know that's generating income for you. You want to protect that, the things that are most valuable to you.
That's a great tip. Thank you. And you're also a registered patent attorney.
Yes.
I think that's a little bit confusing. When should someone apply for a patent?
Okay. So you're trying to solve a problem for people. You think you have a really good idea, and you think you have a good idea that people actually pay money for. Because again, if it's no point getting a patent if no one's going to buy your product, right?
Right.
So when you should come to a patent attorney is when you have enough of your idea, if it's concrete enough that it can be written down on the paper, that somebody skilled in the field can make a version of your product. So it doesn't have to be the final end product. You don't need to have a prototype. But I do recommend people sometimes to generate a prototype. One, it shows them if their idea may be successful, gives them ideas of alternative designs, And one of my jobs as a patent attorney is to think of those alternative designs, because you don't want to get a patent and have somebody just design around your product very easily. My job as a patent attorney is to not only write and explain your idea, but to kind of come up with all those design arounds so that people can't just steal your idea and not violate your patent.
Oh, okay. So it's really important if you have an idea to talk to a patent attorney.
Yes, do it early on. And I know people don't like to hear this. You can get your first patent application in there. If you come up with an improvement or a better idea, you can always claim priority back to that parent application and file another patent application. Yes, I do realize that costs money, but if you really seriously have a good idea, you want to make sure you're fully protected.
Okay. You spoke about branding a little while ago.
Yes.
Trademarks, do they protect branding?
Yes, they protect most of your branding, yes. So if you are practicing, if you have a business and you have out-of-state business, you can actually go for a federal registration. So federal registration protects then your name or your product or your logo, gives you nationwide exclusive use of that name, logo,
okay,
and or taglines. And if you're not doing out of state, you can still build up what you call your common law trademark rights within the state. So if you're just within the state of Pennsylvania, then it's within your area. So you may be a famous pizza place in Pittsburgh and have a name that you can protect, but it might not be protected in Philadelphia. But as you get bigger and bigger and more well known, you build up your common law rights. But if you are doing business out of state, you should try for federal trademark registration. The big thing with federal trademark registration is they examine your logo for likelihood of confusion with other registered marks. And whether you only are doing business in-state or out-of-state, you should always be aware of the likelihood of confusion with someone else's mark, because someone can then try to come after you for infringement.
And we don't want that.
No, you don't want that. So I always recommend people don't fall in love with your trademarks until you come talk to me, and I can do the research and let you know whether or not I feel that you have a very good clearance, essentially, if you're okay to use that trademark without infringing somebody else's trademarks.
Kathleen, if someone's watching at home and thinking, I have this really great business idea, should they talk to someone like you first, an attorney, to see what the steps they should take for copywriting and intellectual property?
Because essentially, I know a lot of people, when you're starting a business, talking to an attorney and getting that type of work seems to be a big expense.
Right.
But I can help you sidestep landmines and avoid bad things. I mean, people buy, fire insurance, not because they're intending to have a fire, but to protect themselves in case of a fire. I'm sort of that protection. I will hopefully guide you to sidestep some of those landmines so that you are fully protected and that you're not going to have somebody coming after you. Because as a small business owner, you may be thinking, well, I don't know if I want to get my stuff protected, but you always are at risk of someone coming after you. And I can help you at least hopefully avoid a lot of those problems or mitigate any damages to that.
Okay. Because, we don't want that.
No,
we don't want that. Because I'm sure that's time-consuming and expensive.
Yeah. So, if you have someone come to us, we had this image on our website. Our graphic designer put it on there. We didn't realize it. Now the stock photo company's coming after us. Now, if they would have just paid the $50 for the image, it would have been fine, right? Or had me tell them don't use that without paying for it. Now they're getting in a lawsuit, having to go with the insurance company, and there's thousands of dollars involved. And it's time and effort and aggravation. As a small business owner, you don't want to do that. You're not there to deal with that. You're in business to do whatever it is your business is.
Right.
And so hopefully if they would have come to me beforehand, I would have said, no, don't do this. Develop your own. In fact, I tell people, at this day and age, with all the technology, you should develop your own stuff and make it more unique. In fact, that makes a stronger branding and stronger trademarks, is to have your unique brand, unique stuff.
That's such great information, Kathleen. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, attorneys, if anybody ever needs, starting a business, you should talk to somebody. And most attorneys are willing to try to talk to you to let you know what your idea is, for you to tell them your idea, And we can sort of guide you on whether or not you could really use their help or not use their help. I mean, if someone comes to me and they're like, I got the $1 million patent idea, and I listen to them and realize they don't have the $1 million patent idea, I can guide you away from that and be honest and say this is not worth pursuing, or you need to figure out other avenues if you want to pursue this. If you start going off on your own, you're inevitably going to make some mistakes. The law in intellectual property is very gray and has a lot of subtleties, and it's very hard for an average person to work through that.
Sure.
You need somebody that has the knowledge that can guide you in the right direction.
Thank you so much for being here,
Thank
Kathleen.
you. Good to see you.
My guest is Dr. Hollis Batista, VP and CIO, Chief Inspirational Officer of AB Consulting. Hi, Hollis.
Hi, Denise.
Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me. This is such a treat and delight.
And we've known each other for so many years. I'm so happy you could be on the show.
Yes, we have. We've known and had a lot of fun.
We have?
Yes, we have.
That's for another show.
We'll talk about that.
So, Dr. Hollis Batista,
Yes.
and it's a PhD. It's not a medical degree. It's a PhD.
No, it is not a medical degree.
Can you tell everybody a little bit about your background?
Yes. Well, my education started as an elementary teacher. And I decided I wanted to broaden all of my experience in education. So I went back to school to get more administrative degrees. And I did all of that at Duquesne University. So I got my administrative degree first to be a principal, and then a curriculum and instruction advisor. And then I went to get my educational doctoral degree, which is very different. It specializes for teachers who really want to go into the classroom and into the community to use their research. So that's how it all began.
Wow, that's quite impressive.
Thank you, Denise.
And recently you wrote a book,
Yes, I did.
and it's called Training for Prison, How Our Children Develop Character Traits That Imprison Them for Life. Is this your first book?
Yeah, well, it's really my second book because my first book really was my dissertation, and it
Okay.
is published.
Yes.
But this is my second book on my own, and Training for Prison was brought on from my career. I've been in education for several decades, and I started out in elementary, and the precious little babies were there, but we would often see their discipline referrals starting out little, and then as they got into higher grades, it got more and more pronounced. And unfortunately, some of the children did train for prison and ended up in prison.
So is that what motivated you to write this book?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
How can parents become more involved in their child's life so these things don't happen?
Well, parents are their first teachers. Parents are their first role model and their first leader. And it starts from birth. Matter of fact, my book is divided into two sections. The first section is called It Starts With You, the Parent. And it does. A lot of parents feel, I don't know where these behaviors developed or where they began. And I often tell them, well, you were their teacher 5, 6, maybe even 7 years before they came to school. So you really need to be careful about what they do, their behaviors, and instill in them responsibility, accountability. Teach them to be respectful because they are eventually going to leave your home. And believe me, I've told parents, your children are often the mirror image of you. They watch and hear everything that you do. And sometimes you get those embarrassing moments. I know, as a classroom teacher, some of the children would come to school and share things. And I'd say, oh, okay, thank you. Open house would come and I'd tell the parents, if you don't believe everything they say about me, then I won't believe everything they say about you.
Because they do, they mirror what they see.
Oh, yes, they do. Yes,
Hollis,
they do.
are there some signs that parents or even teachers need to be aware of?
Yes, and the book isn't just for parents and teachers. It's for anyone that interacts with youth.
Yes.
It could be counselors, church people in their youth groups, but it is written for parents specifically because they are the first person to have an impact on their child. And some of the things that they could look for is how often they get in trouble in nursery school, preschool, and then address it immediately. Now, it doesn't mean that every child that gets in trouble is going to prison, but it's something that you need to be very aware of. And then as they get older, of course, what happens in school, how they treat you at home, the language that they use, what they watch on television. Really, a parent needs to be aware and monitor as much as they can about their precious bundle of joy. Yes.
And all those things are in the book.
Every one of those things are in the book. I have 12 chapters. And the book is written so that if a parent happens to come across a problem that they're having with their child, they can just literally open the book go to the chapter. They're not real long chapters.
Okay.
Read about it. And then at the end of each chapter, I have sharp points. And those sharp points are little tips on how to effectively address some of those issues.
That's great, Hollis. That's very important. You're also the creator of Table Talk and Speechable Moments. What is that?
Oh, okay. Table Talks and Speechable Moments I created. So the real title is Dr. Hollis's Table Talk
Okay.
and Dr. Hollis's Speechable Moments. Table Talk is simply keeping the lines of communication. The table is a symbol, and that means regardless of whether you're sitting at home eating dinner or breakfast, or if you're out in McDonald's or in the car, I want you to think of talking, keeping the lines of communication open. Because if you don't know what your child is doing, who they're interacting with, what they're thinking,
Right.
how can you ever address any problems? And the speechable moments are exactly that. For instance, if you're sitting down watching television and you hear something important on the news, that is a speechable and teachable moment to address it with your
Okay.
child. So that's what both of those
That's
are about.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Hollis, you've written a book. You're involved in Toastmasters.
Yes.
You and your husband are award-winning winemakers, Batista Wines. How do you have time
Absolutely.
for all this?
Well, it's called compartmentalizing your life. We love to keep busy, and we do things that we're very, very passionate about. We work together always, as you know, in Toastmasters. You always saw the two of us
Right,
there.
right,
And
always
this
together.
past year, 2016, 2017, I was a district director. I was your district
You
director.
were, yes.
And we did a lot of events. And my father passed away in 2011. And to honor him, we decided to start our own wine business because my father's family did that. And so
Okay.
that's how the Batista's wine began. And we only did it to compete in the USA. We're not doing it to sell. And we do. We win silver, bronze, double gold, triple gold medals, and we enjoy it.
Oh, that's great. Is
Yes.
there anything you want to add, Hollis, for the audience?
Oh, sure. I would like for you to go to my website, which is trainingforprison.com, and download the free companion guide that you can use. And all the sharp points are there, and all the chapters in my book are there. And if you do that, you'll have a tool instantly to help you if you have any problems with your children.
Thank you so much for being here, Hollis. I really appreciate
thank
it.
you. I really enjoyed this.
Today I'm here with Kim Adley. Kim owns two businesses, Characters by Kim and Passport to Pittsburgh. Hello, Kim.
Hello, Denise. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for being here.
It was my pleasure.
I was so excited when I started this show because I knew that I wanted to have you on the show
Great.
because you have two of the best businesses ever and one really unique business.
Yes, I do.
You are a professional storyteller,
Yes, I have been for 24 years.
and that's your business, Characters by Kim.
Exactly.
Now, what is your background? How do you become a professional storyteller?
Well, I have an elementary school teaching background,
Okay.
a bachelor's in communications and a master's in teaching, and a love for theatrics. So I was always sort of theatrical in my classroom. When I retired from teaching, I decided to start a business so I could get my foot in my son's kindergarten classroom. And that was the first character, was a scarecrow. And I went into the classroom to tell stories to the children. And she said, "Can you come back?" And I just kept creating characters. And I now I had 12 at one point, but I've pared it down to 9. So they're very seasonal. I have a Scarecrow, Spiderella. I do Mrs. Claus. I'm booking right now for Mrs. Claus in December, which is my most beloved character, as aside from the Queen of Hearts. And a couple of spring characters, Fiona the Irish Lassie, a pirate captain for boys, And it's just been a wonderful avenue for my creativity. And also, I have to tell you that just is a way for me to express my excitement and passion for children's imagination and the love of literacy.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
And when you say costumes, you go full out. I've seen pictures.
Oh yeah, full costumes. Yeah, you probably wouldn't recognize me in some of them. Hopefully not as Mrs. Claus. You know, yes, she's and yeah, full blown costumes exactly, and accents, and really take on the persona of the characters that I created, which is so engaging for children. When I do the work, I realize that I'm combating with so much electronic stimulation in children's lives. And so and teachers and parents are also battling this.
Yes.
So what can you do? You have to do something that's unique and different. And so I find that it's quite a niche, and the children are very receptive to it.
Now, do you make up stories or do you read stories? How does it work?
It's a good question. I do both. I use some trade books, which lend well to the theme of the story time, always giving credit to the author, of course, and then I have written many stories as well over the 24 years that I have used that are tried and true and really work with my personality. So.
And where do you go to do storytelling? Do you go to schools mostly?
Well, my work now is mostly in schools. School assemblies are my biggest market. I have a curriculum that I wrote called Big Ideas for Little People. And it's a character education program that I do for kindergarten and first grade. It's available to any school district who wants it. And I contract with them for a monthly visit with the Queen of Hearts. And it's based on Clifford the Big Red Dog. And each month I present a value or character education theme. So in the beginning of the school year, it's about cooperation. It's about making friends. And then by the end of the school year, it's about believing in yourself. So it's a progression. It's a wonderful program. I have several school districts who contract me to do that each school year.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, but other things I do, I was just at the senior center group. I just was at the West Mifflin Community Day. I do corporate events. I do birthday parties, and library story times as well. So it's amazing where storytelling is needed. It's a very ancient art of expressing yourself orally through the spoken word, and it never gets old for people. No matter what your age, I say you're always the right age for a well-told tale.
Oh, absolutely. That's just
Exactly.
wonderful, especially with literacy. Like you said, there's so much electronics now,
Oh, yes.
and it's so important to go back to literacy.
It really is.
And your second business is exciting as well.
Yes, it is. I'm celebrating my 2-year anniversary this month, so this is great for me to be here to talk about it. It's a custom tour design company called Passport to Pittsburgh. And I'm just having it's become a wonderful way for me to bring my education and my storytelling and my love of the city all together. It kind of came together like the Three Rivers at Pittsburgh. You know, the education background, the storytelling, and then the tourism. And I take people on custom itineraries that are very unique and help people explore and rediscover this wonderful city we live in.
Oh, there's so much in Pittsburgh.
There is.
And people should take the tours because you don't even realize half the things that we have in Pittsburgh.
No, you don't. You don't. Our city is on every list. It's been named the #1 food city in America by Zagat. It's the most livable city. We're the most well-read city. Just wonderful businesses popping up, so much entrepreneurial spirit in the city, and I love to show people that. I love them to get out of their, because our geography keeps us kind of contained in our neighborhoods. The South Hills people don't want to cross the bridge to go to the North Hills.
Right.
But I try to get them out of that mindset, and I'll take them on my shuttle buses to explore another neighborhood, to see that there's so many fun things to do in North Hills, and they do use the same currency in the North Hills.
You're kidding.
Yes.
I have to ask you, what is
Yes.
your most unique tour you've done?
Oh, my most unique tour I've done. Well, I'm doing a really fantastic one coming up at the end of September called the Eclectic Art Tour. We're a really artsy city, and so it focuses on the way that the North Shore is reinventing itself from a once blighted neighborhood to now it's got the Andy Warhol Museum and Randyland and the City of Asylum, refuge for persecuted authors, and Alphabet City, all these things that Pittsburghers don't really know about. It's a very unique tour. But I did one that was called Feelin' Groovy, and that was kind of a really fun tour. Everybody wore peace signs, and we went to see a 60s musical review.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It was really fun. I run the gamut. Whatever my customer wants, I will create it. I did one for a customer who wanted to eat pierogies, and it was called Pass the Pierogies. And it was awesome.
So you just design them as they come up.
Yes, it's a wonderfully creative outlet for me because I find that in my work, I need to be creative. So if a customer calls me, a women's group, I have a Red Hat Lady group that calls me often, and I created a whole series of Red Hat Lady adventures for them. So they say, we want to go see a church. Well, then I will create a whole day itinerary around that beautiful Pittsburgh church, which there are many.
There are many.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a very customized, unique itinerary for the person. And all you need is a group of 15 or more.
Okay.
And I will come and pick you up at your location in the luxury shuttle. And we charge a price per person based on the itinerary that I create for you. So the sky's the limit.
Sounds great. Two wonderful businesses.
Thank you. So, I brought you something.
You did?
I did. I brought you, and I just had my logo trademarked. So this Passport to Pittsburgh logo, this is your Passport to Pittsburgh bag. And inside, I brought you, some goodies from around the city.
Oh my goodness,
your
thank
mug,
you so much.
Some locally made coffee, some locally made candies, some coupons, and my bookmark. And I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, so thank you so much for having me on
Thank
here.
you so much for being here, Kim.
We're going to talk about the magazine. Do we have a minute?
Sure.
Okay, I also brought you a copy of the magazine that I write for, which is Inspiring Lives magazine. And I write a travel column for them, which is called Passport to Inspiration. So I wanted to bring you a copy of that as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for being here, Kim.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Empowering Women. I'd like to thank my guests, Kathleen, Kim, and Hollis, for passing on such wonderful and valuable information. I hope it inspires and empowers you to live your dreams. See you next time.
I've shown an interest in making home movies. Me and some buddies would just grab a camera and you just start making these videos, and then you realize at some point that this isn't just a hobby anymore, it's something that you actually want to pursue. And there's this great facility right down the road, BPTV. A lot of people will try to do these productions on their own, and one of the things they don't have is the equipment, but right here is everything that you need is in one nice little bundle. There's lights, cameras, reflectors, dollies, all kinds of little knickknacks. Like anything that you'd want to use that you would need for a production, you have it right here. Like it's all right here. You can make your own feature movie just with the stuff from this studio. Come meet Dave Cable, let him show you around, and I think you'll realize that this is something that you could fall into regardless of your level of expertise, whether you're a beginner or even if you're a more advanced learner. There's something here for everyone, and I feel that you just need to come through and just be a part of the experience and just watch and learn, and let Dave be your guide.